There we go. Let's call this meeting to order at 6:31. Shelley, roll call.
Doug Thompson.
Here.
Katie Knutson. Here. Richard Anthony.
Here.
Ted Carbs.
Here.
Margot Collins.
Here.
David Gurns.
Here.
Tyler Shorman.
Excused.
John Sherman.
Excused.
Thank you. Jada Roche.
Here.
Liz Costa. Here. Greg Colby.
Present. All right, please let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So thank you, Charlene, for the minutes once again.
Make a motion to approve the minutes
There
for,
is a typo on page 3 where it says T. Anthony. It changed your name on you, Richard.
It happens.
I'll fix it.
It's my nom de guerre.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 7th, 2025, and to update that sentence to reflect R. Anthony instead of T. Anthony.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Any abstain? Thank you. Before we bring the public hearing to a begin, we have 2 warrant articles we have to vote on. The Board of Selectmen passed 2 warrant articles last night. The first one is a deposit to the cell tower maintenance capital reserve fund, Article P 25-18. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the previously established cell tower maintenance capital reserve fund? The sum is going to come from the general fund, unassigned fund balance.
Which basically means, just for the public, there's no cost to the taxpayer. It's coming out
I'm
of,
just reassigning.
correct, thank you.
And it's basically revenue that was taken in by the town, and so we're putting it into the maintenance, cell tower maintenance capital reserve.
Make a motion to recommend Article P-25-18, deposit to the cell tower maintenance capital reserve fund for $25,000.
Second.
Any discussion?
Second.
You have a question or did you second it?
Oh, he's,
I have a question. I just seconded
I know.
any questions? You have anything, Richard?
it. Is the revenue that's being deposited into the capital reserve fund for the cell tower, is it derived from the rents or some sort of agreement from the cell tower?
We negotiated a lease agreement with a 4th carrier on the tower. As part of that negotiation, I inserted a paragraph for a $30,000 payment to help cover costs and maintenance. I've held back $5,000 towards legal fees and the like, and the balance of it's going into the trust fund for future maintenance.
Okay.
So we've already collected it. When the agreement was signed, within 90 days of that agreement, they had to make the payment. They made the payment in March or April of 2024.
And the 5,000 is it legal? Is it legal fees associated with this particular?
The agreement, yes,
Agreement.
with getting the agreement, having our legal counsel run through it and the like.
So the revenue coming in, we're having it pass through the general account and then remitting it, looking to deposit into some sort of a trust fund of some
Yes.
kind. Okay.
That's how we handle revenue. It comes into
What's
the
that?
general fund, and then we reassign it
Okay.
in situations like this.
Well, especially since this revenue was derived directly because of the tower. Right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, good. The next warrant article is communication specialist, full-time staff position. Article P 2519, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to establish a communication specialist position at town hall? The sum represents the cost of wages associated roll-up costs such as taxes, insurance, and retirement. The annual cost for this position is estimated to be $100,000. I don't know if Jay or Greg want to take a chance.
Well, I'll make a motion to recommend it.
Second.
So the staff at Town Hall is identified, and we're doing actually a comparison today of going back 20 years with staffing at Town Hall, and we are less employees now than we were 20 years ago. So that had prompted the idea, given the requirements of right-to-knows, postings, information that needs to get out there, that we're proposing to add a position in Town Hall to be primarily responsible to help all committees, all employees, all departments with getting information out, as well as other duties that may be assigned. We are short of staff here at Town Hall. We close departments and the like because we have so many one-person departments. We can't keep them open as it is. So it is, a needed position, if you will, and to have another body here at Town Hall is important. So
Is this a one-person position or multiple one?
it would be anticipated as a one-person position.
Any other questions? Any questions?
And I
Discussion?
would assume, having observed the ladies downstairs, that this person not only would be, shall we say, an IT specialist, but also cross-trained in other duties within the town hall parameters?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Will there be any additional expenses related to space and other work that has to be done that might have to accommodate where this person can work?
No, we would find the space here currently at Town Hall. They can either, float with empty desks or the like, or some of the work, possibly could be done remote as well. So, postings and things of that nature, but we wouldn't need any additional space.
So what happens if this warrant article doesn't pass? Short-staffed?
Can't hire that position.
We do the best that we can.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, we do the best that we can, and, we just go from
Just
there.
keep waiting and just keep waiting?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns or comments?
Is it a 40-hour-a-week job?
It would be a full-time position.
Okay. I guess with respect to other employees, is the compensation comparable, or is it, how is it?
We would, last night I had mentioned, somewhere between probably $20 and $25 an hour, but we would slate that person where we felt, would be appropriate given the staff that we have currently.
But this also includes health insurance, which could be as much as $25,000 or $30,000 for a family plan.
That's correct.
So this is worst case scenario,
Yes,
I'm assuming.
yes.
Any other questions or comments, concerns? All right, all in favor of this warrant article?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So that part's behind us. Now at 6:40, we're going to open up the public hearing. I'm going to start by reading the proposed budget that we voted on over the last, 2 or 3 months. And then we'll get into the warrant articles and then any questions from the public if there's anybody here.
Excuse me.
So the first department I have is the executive department. Proposed budget's $282,684, which is an increase of about 3% over last year. I'm referring to the, for the members here, I'm referring to the Excel spreadsheet on the screen up here. The town clerk, Proposed budget is $137,952, which is actually pretty flat, a $245 decrease over last year. Elections, the proposed budget is $32,364, a small decline over last year.
That's because we have less elections.
That's elections. The finance budget, this year's $173,000. Last year, it was $149,610. That is up 16%. I don't recall why there was an increase on that. Greg, can you?
Salaries, redundancy in the finance office.
Okay. Then we have the assessing department, proposed budget $130,420. That's an increase of 10%. I think that was that related to software? The assessing department, was the increase related to software?
Yes, in the contract for the assessing services.
Then we have
Not mistaken.
the tax collection department, proposed budget $53,945, up 2%. Legal, proposed budget $97,500, that's up $17,500 or 22%. That's primarily because of right-to-knows and expected legal costs. HR, proposed budget $2,556,556. That's an increase of 4%. Planning, proposed budget $114,120. That's up 4%. Zoning, that's flat at a proposed budget of $5,350. Town buildings, proposed budget $427,540. That's up 7%. Cemeteries, that's flat, proposed budget $10,500. Insurances, proposed budget $209,267, up 7%. Advertising, proposed budget $26,000, up $500. Cable, proposed budget $36,400, up $300. Conflict of interest is flat at $250. Other general government, proposed budget $305,000. That's an increase of $15,000 or 5%. Police department, proposed budget $2,975,389. That's an increase of 10%. From what I understand, that's mostly due to contracts in last year's collective bargaining agreement. Fire department, proposed budget $1,599,925. That's an increase of 4%. Inspections, proposed budget $195,706, an increase of 5%. Emergency, proposed budget $37,225, which is an increase of 0. Highway department, proposed budget $1,067,900, an increase of 3%. Lighting, proposed budget $91,500, a decrease of $3,500. Solid waste, proposed budget $1,022,943, a change of 1%. Landfill, budget proposed of $39,000, an increase of $500. Health, proposed budget $103,550, an increase of 4%. Human resources, $46,887. I'm sorry, that's human services. Proposed budget $46,887, which is flat over last year. Welfare, $36,410, a decrease of $2,500. Rec department, proposed budget $209,947, a decline of 3%. Culture, which also includes Old Homes Day, $28,500. It's down $20,000 over last year due to not having a larger Old Homes Day like prior. Conservation, proposed budget $7,925, a decline of $500. Debt services, budget of $545,515, a decline of 2%. Library, proposed budget of $699,134, an increase of 4%. And that's the total before water, total proposed budget, $13,306,304, an increase of 5%. And then the water, which is self-funding, budget of $510,516, which is actually a decline of 2% last year. So the next section is the warrant articles. I volunteered Katie to assist me with reading through these, so very nice of you, Katie.
Article 2501 is just to elect all necessary officers. Moving on to operating budget general fund, this is Article P-25-02. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant article and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $13,306,304. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $13,270,845, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13 X and XI to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote required. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen 500 and the Budget Committee 510. Operating Budget Water Department. This is Article P-25-03. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget for the Water Department, not including appropriations by special warrant article and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $510,516. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $520,016, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13 X and XI to take up the issue of a revised budget only. Majority vote required. The total appropriations is $510,516. Withdrawal from the Water Enterprise Fund. No amount to be raised by 2025 taxations. The balance of the Water Enterprise Fund was, don't have that number at this time, as of December 31st. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Contingency Fund, RSA 31:98-A, Article P-2504. Shall the town vote to establish a contingency fund for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $85,000 to be deposited into the fund. The sum to come from the general fund, unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. Use of these funds will be pursuant to RSA 31:98-A and RSA 32:11. This is a majority vote required. Total appropriations is $85,000. This was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Highway Department Equipment Expendable Trust Fund. This is Article P-25-05. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be deposited into the previously established Highway Department Equipment Expendable Trust Fund? Majority vote required. The balance in the Highway Equipment Trust Fund was not known at this date, December 31st, 2024. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Building Expendable Trust Fund. This is Article P-25-06. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the previously established Building Expendable Trust Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Library Capital Reserve Fund. Article P-25-07. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $55,000 to be deposited into the previously established Library Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Okay. This was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Transportation Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund. Article P-25-08. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be deposited into the previously established Transportation Infrastructure Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote is required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Revaluation Capital Reserve Fund. Article P-25-09, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the previously established Reevaluation Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Fire Department Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund. This is Article P-25-10. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $140,000 to be deposited into the previously established Fire Department Apparatus Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 601. Deposit to Fire Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Article P-25-11. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be deposited into the previously established Fire Department Equipment Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 601. Deposit to Fire Department Radio Capital Reserve Fund. This is Article P-25-12. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be deposited into the previously established Fire Department Radio Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 601. Deposit to the Public Safety Communication Capital Reserve Fund. Article P-25-13. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $80,000 to be deposited into the previously established Public Safety Communication Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to the Police Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund. This is Article P-25-14. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $80,000 to be added to the previously established Police Vehicle Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Cemetery Special Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund. Article P-25-15. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the previously established Cemetery Special Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 700. Deposit to Recreation Capital Reserve Fund. Article P-25-16. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $30,000 to be deposited in the previously established Recreation Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400 and the Budget Committee 601. Long-term lease of landfill. This is the solar project. Article P-25-17. Shall the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease a portion of the town-owned property located on 6 Wilder Drive and identified as parcel 32-032-000-000, constituting the closed town landfill, to a vendor for the purpose of setting a solar energy array for a period of up to 30 years. If approved, the location and consideration and other terms related to that lease arrangement will be subject to negotiation between the Select Board and the vendor. Further, to see if the town shall vote to authorize the Select Board to negotiate and execute a lease agreement, power purchase agreement, and such other documents related and incidental to the lease of the parcel for that purpose on such terms as the Select Board deem reasonable. Majority vote required. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 400. Deposit to the Cell Tower Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund. This is Article P-25-18. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be deposited into the previously established Cell Tower Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund? Majority vote is required. The last thing is the Communication Specialist Full-Time Staff Position, which is Article P-25-19. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $50,000 to establish a Communication Specialist position at Town Hall? This sum represents the cost of wages and associated roll-up costs such as taxes, insurance, and retirement. The annual cost of this position is estimated at $100,000.
Thank you, Katie. So that concludes the public hearing aspect of this meeting tonight. Does anybody on the board has questions? Greg, I'm not sure if you have anything you wanted to share for the next old business, new business. I'm closing the public hearing yet. 6:55.
I don't. I can answer specific questions if you have any.
Okay. Well, I think a couple meetings ago, Richard in particular was looking for, I don't say hypothetical, a projected budget for the ambulance if it wasn't an enterprise fund. Am I correct, Richard?
An enterprise fund or probably a revolving account.
Yeah, I think we're just looking for a projection. What would a 12-month or an annual projection of revenue and expenses look like, I think is what we're trying to obtain.
Yeah, I think that's in the context of the fact that the Atkinson Board of Selectmen voted 5-0-0 to establish a revolving account in the anticipation that if they do take the ambulance service in-house, that would represent the revenue capture and then, offsetting function of some kind with respect to the budget. So
Yeah, I'm not sure Greg, do you know where we stand year to date with the revenue from the ambulance?
I'm still reconciling. I was on the phone with the ambulance company today and working with the fire chief, but real quick,
Just a ballpark is fine.
we're in the neighborhood of 275,000 for the year.
That's through 9 months.
That would be for 9 months, 8 months, 9 months, yes. So that's really the cash collections. It doesn't represent the receivables or billings that would be collected on the outstanding as of 12/31. That's
What-
really just cash collected.
Cash collections. What's the estimated, how long does it take to collect? Once you bill insurance, is it 90 days, 180 days, 120 days?
Yes.
That depends on the carrier?
It depends on the carrier. Yeah, between Medicaid, Blue Cross, United Healthcare, all of them, they all do their own thing and it can vary.
Yep. And we use obviously a third-party billing system.
Yes.
So-
Yeah, we utilize.
And we have no mechanism to realizing bad debt at this point.
No, we are working on that, identifying a vendor and the like. It's a real uphill battle though, even with the uncollecteds. So
Richard, do you have any, I know you had some specific questions.
no, I just again want to just highlight the fact that Atkinson, we've been told that, we don't, it's not feasible or it doesn't appear to be intelligible to have an enterprise account to capture it. But I guess, Atkinson has decided to establish a revolving account to capture that revenue. We had an example, tonight where we have $30,000 worth of revenue that went from a cell phone contract to the general account and then through an affirmative,
We moved
warrant
it.
article, moving 25,000 of it to,
A warrant article, yeah.
yeah. So,
It's
but
really,
with a revolving account,
It's really apples to oranges.
well, yeah, I'm going to
But
speak about
that
bananas
is
at
by
this point.
that is by law. What is
Okay.
being done
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
that cell phone
That's
money
great.
is following the proper steps through
Yeah,
the law.
Based on at least or a contract that's already.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that's fine.
Yeah.
But for a revolving account, we would skip the whole, it would go straight from the revenue would come from, into the treasurer and go immediately into the revolving account. You would skip the whole roundabout going through the general account.
I think that might be the goal going forward at some point, but I'm sorry, go ahead, Jay.
Like I said at the last meeting, I would bring this up to the selectmen. We had a discussion about it. No one wanted to take any action on setting up a revolving fund or a enterprise fund at this point.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think this is the way we're going to operate at this point, and once, and we'll revisit it on a yearly basis at this point.
Just tangentially related though, the Intercept fund, the Intercept service that we're talking about, you had indicated at some point that you were going to set up an enterprise account. Is there any action? Monies are being remitted, right, from some other organization to Plastow.
That was originally what the goal was.
Okay, so, but has any action been done on that or?
Not at this point. We
Is-
had a public hearing, but we haven't had an update since then.
Yeah, to
So
set up the enterprise account.
I will leave it to Mr. Colby to answer that for you.
The money that is derived from that is 100% Plastow is in effect the agent for it. We're accepting and expending on behalf of the other towns. So there are legal not ramifications, but legalese. And I had the auditors in today and had a lengthy conversation on it because one would argue to exert 3195, which is monies that become available during the year that are unanticipated, would be for town expenses. These aren't town expenses. We are acting as the agent for, so is an enterprise fund appropriate? Is it revenue to the town? Because if we're only acting in a fiduciary capacity, be accounted for separately in a separate fund as an in and out, similar to planning board escrows or any monies that the planning board may require of a developer to put forth. We don't accept those funds because we're expending them on behalf of the developer for certain projects. This is the same premise, if you will.
Thank you.
Any other conversations to be had before we close the meeting? When is the deliberate, Jay? First Saturday?
Saturday, February 2nd.
Not the first.
Or is it the first? Saturday,
It's the
February
first.
1st.
That is
First
here.
Saturday of February.
What time is that? 9
9 a.m.
a.m. here. Okay.
I did want to just mention something. We're asking our committees to, if you want to meet with department heads or the town manager, that you set up go through the chair of your committee. I know people are on multiple committees, but if you'd work through the chair of your committee to work with our town manager, Greg, to set up an appointment. And we're doing that for the foreseeable future at this point. So we just appreciate every committee's cooperation in that. We'll mention it at all of our selectmen are going to mention it at their upcoming meetings. So it's just with some staffing changes and the like, we're looking to make it a little more efficient in schedule appointments and not just going into people's offices. So.
Okay. We'll bring this meeting to close, to adjourn at 7:03 p.m. Thank you.